First, just want to thank everybody for coming today. I know that it's a lot to take out of your day, and we really appreciate that. I also want to thank all the panelists and the speakers for joining us, and really appreciate the sponsors for today's event too. Geneva National, it's a beautiful room, and also Ideal Impressions for the video services, because one of the things that we really want to do is use this event above and beyond today to kind of carry the messages that we come out with, so really appreciate that. So before we get started too, I just briefly want to share the format for today's event. I will be providing kind of a brief introduction to set the stage for the discussion, and then we will have Karen Burns here from the Wisconsin Job Center to talk a little bit about what we're doing here in Walworth County. And then we've got Dennis Winters who will give us a workforce development overview from an economic perspective, particularly as it relates to education and career education in schools. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over to the panelists, each of whom represents kind of a key component in this system. And if you'll look in the program there, you can see where they're, which sector they're from. So one of the reasons I wanted to do this event today is because as I get around the community and meeting with actually around the county, getting around meeting with businesses, a lot of them will, understandably so, they're absorbed in their businesses, and they really don't think that anything's going on in terms of an interaction with the schools and the businesses and trying to learn some of the skill sets that are needed. And so I thought, actually there are a lot of good things going on, and I thought it'd be nice for one to just establish kind of where we're at, and I think some of our panelists will help us do that. And then I also want to talk about, and I hope some of the panelists too will refer to that when they're speaking, but some of the innovative situations or approaches that are going on around us in neighboring areas throughout the state. And so I hope we'll talk about that. And then finally, want to open it up to the audience because we have a lot of good key sector people here from different areas that I think could also talk about some of the good work that they're doing. And so kind of want to capture all that on video here and talk about maybe be able to use that for moving forward. To help kind of get this to the next level, our efforts with really what developing a pipeline for the future. So I just want to do a brief kind of a preface for today's discussion too about just throw some facts out here and about the types of education and skills that are needed. And so when you kind of look at some of the research there, it looks like 65 to 70% of high school graduates actually enroll in college, and then we all know that there's been a strong push for that to encourage students to go to college. However, I guess what the troubling part of this is that only about 25% actually earn a bachelor's degree or a four-year degree, and so many of those who do complete a four-year degree actually don't even start exploring a career until they've graduated. I know that there's a lot of good efforts now to change that, but in the past that's certainly been the case. And so at that point they're faced with trying to learn what opportunities are available. They may not have very many job skills because they've possibly been working some part-time jobs and not really had any significant skills. And then they're saddled with a lot of debt in a lot of cases that could impede their success in the future. And so one of the things that I had seen and I wanted to share too is looking at kind of the skills and types of jobs that would be needed in the future. I know there was a Harvard University study that predicted by 2018 that about 33% of all the jobs will require a four-year degree or higher. 57% will require technical skills, and 10% will be unskilled jobs. Now, what's interesting about these statistics is when you draw a comparison from 50 years ago, and in 1960, about 20% of jobs required a 4-year degree or higher, 20% were skilled jobs, and 60% were unskilled. So what you're seeing is almost a complete flip from unskilled jobs in 1960 of 60% to skilled jobs in 2018 of 58%. And so I guess what this all boils down to is that investments in career education in high schools and technical schools are going to probably be the key to feeding this employee pipeline going for the future. And so businesses really can't afford not to work with schools, and schools need to design their curricula and practical experiences to meet the needs of businesses. And I think that's really the big message that hopefully we will be able to get out or during this meeting, but get out after the fact, and certainly something that we'll be putting a lot of efforts into from our agency to work with other partner agencies. So with that, I want to get started, and I want to introduce our first speaker here, Karen Burns from the Wisconsin Job Center, and she's going to give a brief overview of the services that are available through the Job Center in Walworth County.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I thought I was going to be sitting there. I'm the manager with the Walworth Job Center. My name's Karen Burns, and I'm going to go over some of the services that we offer at the center. For our job seekers, we have job postings, soft skills that we're able to train them in. We have workshops that help them get their resume together in order to see the employers that are coming out or that need job postings filled. We also help the job seeker get the skills necessary to get the training that we have available. We can refer them over with Gateway. We have partnerships with Gateway. We also have job seeker CNC program that we can also help some of them go to through the adult and youth programs. We also have the youth programs available to help them get ready for the job market. And for the employer side of it, we will post job postings for them in our Wisconsin job banks. And we will do interviews for them, help them with the selection process. In Kenosha, we're currently working with Meyer, where we have this 3-day classes that help them select their candidates. They go through it, and they can go through the interview process with Meyer. Also, with the employer services, we can help them with the rooms for their interviews, or help them with partnering with Gateway, doing those short-term trainings to fill the positions that they have. And assessments for the employer services. We have on-the-job training where we'll pay part of their salary, and they will pay part of their salary so they can try the employee and train them in the field that they're looking for. We have NCRC testing and job fairs we have at the centers, and also with Gateway. We have one, actually it's on the sheet right there that has a job fair coming. We're partnering currently, another area that we're partnering with is vocational rehabilitation. We're going to be working with them to do a summer youth program so we can expand the services that we already offer with our youth program. And I think that's about what we offer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen, appreciate that. I think it's just helpful to understand some of the offerings that are available to the employers and potential prospective employees. And so now, next, what I'd like to introduce is our next speaker here, Dennis Winters, who's the chief economist for the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development. And Mr. Winter's expertise is in economic analysis, modeling, and forecasting, encompassing everything from designing commodity derivative strategies to long-term policy initiative scenario assessments. Mr. Winter's areas of focus include regional and national macroeconomics, energy and labor markets, and economic impact analysis. And we're very pleased to have you come speak with us today.
I have a suggestion, sir.
Yes,
If you
ma'am.
could hold the mic closer to your mouth, the folks can hear us.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Those of you in the back, you may want to move up to the front and move over in the far corner there, and you may see some of the slides. So, this is to the high school kid. And analysis, again. Yeah, I'm going to lay out what our view is of essentially the Wisconsin workforce environment, and give you some of the reasons why it is what it is we think is going to happen here in the not too distant future, or in fact what we're facing at the present. So I didn't know quite how to take this crowd, but I in order to, I'll start on the same page. I like to use this slide because this is a slide of the country and essentially all the municipalities in the country. And if you're gold, you have more grocery stores than bars. So, all right, now I can tell about now you're all getting in the Wisconsin border here, right? So we got something in common that's a little unique with a lot of the rest of the country. So we have to take that into account moving forward. And I run about, or I run about. There's about 30 people that tell me what I need to know, and we're all about data and analysis. So all the workforce data that you see and hear about ultimately comes from folks in my shop. So that's a lot of that's why I pay a lot of attention to all kinds of data. So a couple things I want to leave you with today, I'll start out, is that this is not your father's economy, right? The economy has changed, and so much we. And what I use for a couple illustrations of this is these red bars are all the recoveries after all the recession since World War II. So as we would call them, post-war recession recoveries, 4 years after the trough. And I look at these, how is this one not like the other ones, right? Well, this one's never gotten, back to anything we've seen in the previous business cycles. In fact, we've kind of been lagging through some of the last 3 business cycles on recovery rates. This one is about job losses and gains back, right, through those same business cycles. And you can see for the most part, a lot of those very V-shaped. Quickly down, quick recovery, and back we came. Until the 91 recession. Okay, it seems like a long time ago now. But then we start to get very U-shaped, right? And the 01 recession, the dot-com bubble, and then this red line is what we've just been through, right? And we've only finally breached where we were in the labor force and jobs over the last several months, right? So it has felt like, and it has been a long slog, right, getting through here, but recently very different in the kind of recoveries and business cycles that we go through, particularly on the labor market side. So a lot of the models we have, because things have changed, you may have heard the new normal or whatever it is, a lot of these changes, the models we had are not very good predictors going forward because they're based on a lot of historical data, and if the structure of the economy changes, we're not so good going forward. So, with all that and with the workforce we've got going, what will be the biggest social economic policy challenge over the next 20 years? Okay? It's the baby boomers, right? Those born between 1964, or rather 1946 and 1964, right, of which I qualify. There's about 80 million Americans that came into the workforce, changed the whole social economic structure of the U.S. economy and to a large extent the world economy. Well, as I say, that pig in a python, right, is kind of moving through the system. In the next 20 years, the change in that is going to be huge as the economy goes through too. So we've got this, we got a little more intergenerational view of this, right? We're dealing with, parents and multi-generations. Grandma or even great-grandma here still wants the wind in her hair, right? So, but we have the technology to do that. But this is where it's headed. This is a graph I put up and I've been using for quite some time now because we knew about this quite some time ago. I call this the yellow blue line graph. Yeah, I don't know how to create much. But that's my favorite economist joke is if you took all the economists in the world and laid them end to end, that would be a good thing. But this yellow line is Wisconsin's population from 1960 projected out to 2030. And as you can see, it's a fairly, steadily increasing curve and continue to do so. The blue line, though, is Wisconsin's workforce. Okay? Very different picture here. It starts to flatten out. It may even go negative by 2035. This is huge. From an economic perspective, 3 things I want to make a point on. One, it's never happened before. We've never had to worry about a flattening, much less declining workforce. 2, it's not going away. This is all based on demographic data, which we'll look at a little bit, right? And I say every hour, y'all getting an hour older, that's not going to change. That's very good data that we've got, and it's based on that. And the third thing is that if, from an economic standpoint in particular, if the workforce flattens out, and we don't raise the productivity of the worker, we can't pay them anymore. And if we can't pay them anymore, they can't buy anything else, and if they can't buy anything else, we're not going to produce anything else, and we're not going to hire, and we have the potential of a stagnation cycle, right? This is right before us. You may, and anybody in here looking for help? All right, I think just about all the hands would go up. If you're sufficiently silver in the crown, you'll remember back in the 1990s, late 1990s, at the end of the longest economic expansion of all time in the U.S., there were help wanted signs everywhere, right? Every storefront. We couldn't find enough help for anything, right? And that was the front edge of this. And then we had a couple of recessions that kind of let, as I say, the pressure out of the pot as far as labor force needs were. Well, now we're right back there. There's help wanted signs everywhere. Okay? The only thing that's happened is that the baby boomers have gotten 15 years older, closer to leaving the workforce. This is a similar graph for the Milwaukee metro area, right? Same, and this is only from 1990. The same growth in the population, essentially the same effect in the workforce. And it's pretty much true through Wisconsin, certainly through the upper Midwest, Western Europe, a lot of other places are struggling with the same thing. China, for all the things they've got going for them on the population side, their workforce topped out this year. And they're expecting a population decline actually come 2040. That's why they keep wrestling with this one-child policy, right? They're kind of on and off again about that. But this is what the curves look like. This very normal distribution-looking curve, right, is 2000. Again, 15 years ago. And then the baby boomers kind of start to age. And we age some more, and here's that drop. And this extra bump here, right, is what we used to call the echo, right? Baby boomers had baby boomers, and even though they were having more like 2 kids instead of 4, right, still a big significance. That peak's not as high as this one, and we've got to get through this gap yet, right? This is what we're facing, and this is kind of how it is as we go forward. Anybody in here a nurse or know a nurse? Well, anyway, my wife's a nurse, so What we did a few years ago, we asked all nurses, in fact we mandated all nurses, that when they re-registered their credential every other year, they had to take a survey. And we asked them all kinds of characteristics about their workplace and such. And one of the things we came up with here on the almost 80,000 nurses in the state is their age profile. Okay? This age profile looks very much like this age profile. And this is very concerning to me, and it turns out I married right. I got a nurse for a wife. There's not going to be the replacement nurses here. And why I say this affects me is because in about 20 years I'm really going to need them. And I'm worried they're not going to be here. Right? This is the profile of nurses. This is the profile of welders. This is the profile of school teachers. This is the profile of insurance agents. All the way across all occupational spectrum because of the baby boomers. Okay? And we hear a lot about, I need this, I need that. It kind of started out with, I need welders, then I need CNC, and then they were lining up, I need actuaries, I need computer programmers, I need nurses, I need CNAs. It was kind of like, get in line, right? And the latest Beige Book, which is a report that comes out of the Federal Reserve Bank, that asks companies in their regions, you know, are you having trouble, one of the things it asks them, are you having trouble finding workers? It's a quantity issue. It's the point I'm getting to, okay? I was at a conference, and there was a guy from Caterpillar, he stands up, oh yeah, we can't find this and we can't find that. Everybody understood that. The next person stood up was a woman. Lo and behold, there's going to be a shortage of massage therapists. She had a massage franchise thing going, right? And she couldn't find enough workers or talent. So it's everywhere. It's going to be the case because of the baby boomers moving on. It's a quantity issue. We talk about skills gap, right? I took this photograph outside the little pick and save in the town I'm living in, Stoughton, right? Not a help wanted sign. Now they're having a job fair. Karen, here's your competition. They're having a job fair for utility clerks, cashiers, third shift stackers. These are not skilled jobs, right? But they can't even find help in this level of expertise. How are we going to find it in the skill side of things? That's kind of the quantity issue we've got. The quality issue. This is a quote from Patrick Schillinger, former paper council president. The days are over when you can walk into a paper mill with a high school diploma and expect to run one of the machines. Okay? The technology has just advanced. And if we don't match the talent with the technology, we're not going to be able to increase the productivity. We're not going to be able to grow the economy. Okay? We're putting out more paper per person, right? But we're doing it with a lot fewer people. The auto industry finally recovered. They're making the same amount of cars as they made back before the recession, but they're doing it with 100,000 fewer workers. They've learned to make cars 24 hours a day. Anybody know what this is? And I don't expect you to, right? But I took this on my phone too at like a home show. And I'm looking at this thing and I see all these dials, right? And I see these levers and stuff that looks like video games. I got a bunch of different levers down here. And the only thing I know how to do on this operation is not push the red button. Right? But all this other stuff, all these gauges and dials and everything, this is on the back end of a truck, and all it does is drill holes in the ground for geothermal and for wells, right? My point is now, just to drill holes in the ground. This is the kind of technology we're operating. We need people who can understand this technology and operate it without breaking it down. A $250,000 piece of equipment, you just don't pick some kid off the street and throw him on the back of this thing. That's where our level of technological sophistication is, okay, at this point. So we got to get people skilled up. From an economic, when I talk about, essentially my general conclusion is we got to find every body we can and get him, her skilled up to maximum potential. Okay, is what our firms need, what our companies need, and it's what our economy needs. And this is a graph of average household income, 1978 in the red, 2008 in the blue, by education attainment level. And essentially what this says, if you don't have some kind of post-secondary education, you're going to be falling behind economically. Your standard of living is dropping, and will be. So I talk to a lot of youth and stuff, and they say, well, I'm not really college material. Like, you gotta find some college material in there, because you're gonna need some kind of post-secondary training to get a better life going forward, because that's what our industries, that's what our businesses are demanding. One, because it's a quantity problem, and two, because it's a quality problem. The other part of training that helps out, right? This is a bunch of curves on unemployment by education attainment level. And we use educational attainment as kind of a proxy for skill attainment. And essentially what it says, the less training you have, the more likely you're to be unemployed. Okay? And here's what we went through this last recession. Unskilled people, huge. Unemployment rates up to, what's that, 16%. Right? That's huge. Now, if you couple that with this, so if you've got lower income and you're more unemployed, right, you get behind the 8 ball in a hurry. So it's huge when you combine these two kinds of things into a personal wherewithal from economic standpoint going forward. So there's another reason, right, compounded on here on the quantity and quality side of things, the training, the necessary kind of skill that we have to impart in the population and the young population and coming forward. And if you're going to be in the workforce for any length of time, keep training. It's another thing I tell young kids is get education or training as just part of your lifestyle for the rest of your life. Carve it out and make it work. So, a couple things we're doing at DWD that we think are fairly innovative. We used to have a lot of programs, training programs, kinds of subsidies, what we used to call them train and pray. So you brought people in, you gave them the training they needed, either formal schooling or customized training or something else, and then we said, good luck, right? We've done everything we can. We've changed some of that in 2 programs. One program is called Wisconsin Fast Forward, and the other one is Blueprint for Prosperity. The Wisconsin Fast Forward, $15 million. Came out of general purpose revenue, one of the first times that's ever happened. And what it did, and I'll talk a little bit more about how these lined up, and then Blueprint for Prosperity for the tech colleges, right? $35 million that we had to eliminate waiting lists, because we kept hearing we don't have enough instructors for the people that want to do the high demand jobs. So we went into this. The difference in all these things now, instead of train and pray, these are employer-led. And I'll talk a little bit about that. In a sense, they align worker skills with employer needs, partner with local organizations, and develop sustained pipelines. But the difference in this is that with these programs, you've had to get the grants, you've had to line up a business group, business consortium, that they decide we need these skills, we need these kinds of things, and we're like, fine, all right, is it CNA, is it CNC, whatever. We've got some call center things in here, manufacturing, construction, healthcare, IT, we had a whole list, right? And they went through this kind of thing and said, okay, you need these people. We'll train them up. We'll put the money in to train them up. And the businesses were great. But the business had to put skin in the game. They had to commit to hiring these people at the end of these training programs. And they helped design these training programs. And then they got reimbursed after the fact. So if you had a candidate that went through the employer's approved training, they got to the other end, you hired them up, now you get your reimbursement check for that training. So the 2 different things we've got, we put out $37 million between the 2 programs. That's a lot. 100 tech college programs qualified of the 140 that were submitted. 12,500 participants. This is a serious number when you're talking about coupling skills with jobs. It's Instead of floundering, we're lining this pipeline and we're going. And part of the program had 950 high school students through our youth apprenticeship and youth programs working here. So they've got a path to employment at the end of all of this. So we're hoping to get more money around the next budget thing to do this and expand it. And this is quite a model in the States, getting national recognition, even international recognition. They're actually calling us and saying, could you tell us a little bit more about this? So we're all pretty happy about that. So the point is here, things have changed. So don't be don't be cruising with cruising with Mr. Status Quo. He's standing there looking off the back of the boat, right? As far as I can see, everything looks just fine. Right? Well, this is where you're headed, right? Not where you've been. So don't be that guy, right? Don't be that person. You got to realize the change. It's here. It's hitting you right in the face now. And if you haven't realized yet that that's the case, well, I'm glad I came today then, because you're running a little bit. You're making your way to the aft of this boat, all right? So I think that's what I've got prepared. I don't know if I want to take any questions now or in the panels.
You'd be in the panel.
Okay, in the panel.
Great, yeah.
Thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Dennis. I think we all kind of know some of these things, but that data that you presented there really underscores, I think, the urgency of really having to work with the students in particular, the potential employees of the future. And again, I think we all know that, but I think that was great to have Dennis kind of present that picture for us. But what I'd like to do now, and the reason I convened the panel here, is really just to hear what we're doing in the schools, particularly some of the career counselors, what they're doing, how they're working with businesses, what their experience has been working with career counselors or apprenticeship programs. I would love for each to talk about some innovative programs that they're working on or that they're aware of, that they're looking to, just so that we can kind of get that out there. And then I'd love to open it up after that for questions to the panelists or comments about other things, other programs that you're aware of. So, maybe I'll start with you, Barry, just to talk a little bit about what you've done, because you've kind of crossed over with education and business, and then maybe Joanne would
Pass the
speak,
mic.
and then Debbie. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Barry Butters. I'm the Director in Education of Training at Precision Plus Incorporated. And I'm here on behalf of Mike Reeder, the owner-president of Precision Plus. And Mike's story is that he could put all the brick and mortar and buy all the machinery he can have available to him with the money he has to run his company, but he doesn't have any people to run it. His biggest inhibitor to growth right now is people. So as he looked around the shop and figured out, I can sit back and complain and point the finger at schools and the Department of Workforce Development, or I can get involved. So he hired me as the Director of Education and Training to go out and start a campaign of engaging schools. And he knew that he had to go outside his four walls because while he has great machinists, he didn't think he had anybody in his building that could run the gauntlet between schools and industry. So some of the things we've done since I've been hired is that I didn't where to start. I have so many things to talk about here. We have a summer internship program where we have 19 young people running around our plant floor, some of the best and brightest in Walworth County. In fact, one of them is here today. Tristan down the way there will be able to speak about his experience in our shop. We have a youth apprenticeship program where we have 6 students currently, 3 from Elkhorn High School, a gal from East Troy, a gal from Bigfoot High School, and a young man from Waterford High School. I serve on 6 different CT committees, career technical education committees, 4 in the high school setting and 2 at the technical college setting, both Black Hawk and Gateway. And we're really excited about some of the opportunities that Gateway is going to be providing in the very near future, and I'll let Debbie address that when she has the mic. I'm currently teaching a class, Engineering Design Development, through Elkhorn High School. The kids come to the shop for the class. We've done a video from Elkhorn High School with the guidance department about CNC training, so kids have an idea what the CNC area is about. We provided coach buses down to the IMTS show, 3 of them consecutive days with 2 schools on each bus to give the kids an experience about the robotics and all the cool stuff that's happening in the industry. Most recently, we've been trying to engage other employers in the area, Prop Shaft, several other companies, McLean Fogg, Whitewater Anderson Machining. Derek has opened up some doors for us to really talk about these workforce issues, and we're really excited to have anybody come and talk to us about what we can do to share ideas in the workforce development. Again, I guess the bottom line is Mike looks at the return on investment on my position, and it turns out that he really can't gauge that as of yet, but what he does say is that he knows the return on investment of doing nothing. So that's why I'm here today, and I can't tell you, it's been a really exciting path for me, doing something new and learning all about the CNC industry. With that, I guess I'll turn it over.
Good afternoon. I'm Joanne Pella from Elkhorn Area High School. I am the Career and Technical Education Coordinator at our school district. And I'm just going to pick up on what Barry just said. For many, many years, Elkhorn Area High School has offered co-ops in ag, business, and marketing. But about 6 years ago, Mike Reeder gave me a call. And when Mike Reeder gives you a call, you don't sit still. He's looking for students. He needs a workforce. And so we started with Mike. We started placing some of our co-op kids into the manufacturing area. And from there, we grew into several different youth apprenticeship areas in not only manufacturing, but finance, hospitality, architecture, and transportation. So I think Elkhorn Area High School, and my support team is back on the table in the back of the room, we're doing what we can to feed that employee pipeline. We currently are doing career panels about once a month. We've done them in manufacturing this year. We'll be doing one next week in IT, in the skilled trades area, in the medical and health area. We are promoting tours with our students, not only in manufacturing, but also in the health area as well. And come fall, we are going to be part of the Mercy Medical School for Teens. Coming this October, we're going to take that idea of a manufacturing career panel and actually try to do more one-on-one with our manufacturers in our community, who, by the way, I would say all of our businesses in the Elkhorn community are so supportive of our work-based learning programs. So we're going to try to get more one-on-one with manufacturers and with all of our YA supporting businesses to get students more information about what the career fields are all about. We also have just invested into the Work Keys and Key Train program, where we are trying to get our students NCRC certified. More and more employers, and I would be very interested how many employers in this room would be interested in looking for that NCRC certification. That certification would tell the employer the student's ability in reading, math, and locating information, so that that employer has some much more clear idea of that student's skills. We also are working toward the state mandate of every student having an academic career pathway, 6 through 12, that will come into place by the year 2017. And we have some work to do to make sure that every student is being given the proper guidance, exposure to careers, through the panels, through tours, through these work-based learning programs, that we get them on the right track as they move from 6th grade through 12th, 14th, and then out into the workplace. The goal is to get these students career ready, and we're going to do whatever it takes to accomplish that goal.
Joanne, can you just talk too about, working with some of the other career counselors too in the county that?
Oh, sure. Once a month, Marie Collins is an example. We all come together with through Gateway. Gateway has a consortium of career prep instructors from East Troy, Union Grove, Racine, Kenosha, West Osha, what did I miss here? Waterford, Burlington, all come together discussing what each school is doing as far as preparing kids for careers and success in their future. So that's probably where we're at right now. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Debbie Davidson, and I serve as the Vice President for Business and Workforce Solutions for Gateway. A couple of things that I'll talk about, and Dennis brought up, first of all, the Blueprint for Prosperity grant. We have applied for that grant and are anxiously awaiting the results of that for a high school CNC boot camp. So about 9 years ago, Gateway worked with employers because there was this huge gap in needing more CNC machine operators. So we brought employers together, asked them specifically what skills they were looking for, designed a program around that. It's called a boot camp because of the rigor. It is 14 weeks of 40 hours a week for adults that go through this program. 3 years ago, we started doing one for high school. So this would be for entering seniors. And in the summer, they go for 6 weeks full-time. When their fall semester starts, they go to their high school in the morning, and we work with the counselors in the high schools to make sure they can complete their academics at the high school. Then in the afternoon, they come for training at Gateway. At the end of their first semester, their training part is complete. They are then placed with an employer for a paid internship for the second semester. So by the time they complete high school, they have their high school diploma. They have a Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt certification. They have an MSSE safety certification, 15 Gateway credits, and they have at least 6 months work experience on a resume. We have done this in Racine County, and we just put in for this grant that we'll be offering it in Walworth County. So there's a flyer here. If you're not familiar with it, the flyers are out at the table. We're in the recruitment process right now. The employers are at the table. We're good to go with it, and we just learned this week that we received a grant from the technical college system for us to expand our CNC machining lab at the Elkhorn campus. So at Elkhorn, we have offered automated systems, we have offered engineering, we have offered a great welding program, but we did not have a CNC program there. And because of the interaction with Mike Reeder and company, and all of the people at the tables, really, we work together on this to figure out what is it that we can do that's going to help fill that need. So we are very excited because in July we hope to start this high school program, and then that lab will also be used for adults who are going through a CNC program, which is a one-year program with us. Some of the other things that we've done, we have College Connections staff who are in the high school at least 1 day a week, talking about Gateway, talking about the careers, talking about the 60 programs that we offer at the college. Lots of new programs. A new program that will be starting up in Elkhorn will be our Vet Tech program, and that will start in the fall. So there are a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of needs. As Dennis said, it's not just manufacturing that has a need, it's IT, it's many of these other areas. We have grants at the college that will fully fund somebody going through an IT program. We're having a hard time necessarily filling those programs, so it's fully funded. So I would say if you know of any young or not so young people who are looking to increase their earning potential, direct them to Gateway, have them take a look at what it is that we offer. We've been around for 100 years, and some people in the community may have a view of what we looked like 40 years ago, or 50 years ago, or even 20 years ago. And I will tell you, if you haven't been on a Gateway campus, or you haven't been on one lately, stop in and take a look, because what you'll see there is world class. We work with business partners both locally and globally. So we've got partnerships with companies like Snap-on Tools and Train Corporation, Pierce Manufacturing, many, many others that I won't name all of them right now. But they help us make sure that the standards that we're setting at the college are really preparing the workers for tomorrow, for local companies as well as global companies. So that's, what we bring to the table is a willing ear, the resources of the college, and helping determine how do we keep this pipeline flowing, not just in the K-12, which is very important to our future, but for a lot of individuals right now who are either unemployed or many who are underemployed, and some who have kind of checked out of the workforce labor pool altogether. We need all hands on deck to make sure that we can train them for those jobs. So thank you. I'll pass it.
Good afternoon, welcome. My name is Kevin Pollack. I get the privilege to run Geneva National here, as well as the Geneva Ridge property, and we also manage the Cove. We probably have approximately, talking about hospitality, 100 year-round full-time employees at the 3 properties, but then in the summer we'll swell up to over 700. And that's not unlike, say, the Abbey, that probably has 100 and they get to 400 or 500, and Lake Lawn is somewhat similar. The Grand ends up over 1,000 employees. I think they're close to 1,300 in season. And it's certainly a challenge, I think, for all of us when the workforce gets that big, that quick. Some of our challenges certainly are culinary skills in this area. This training, the ability to house a lot of people. There are a lot of schools that specialize in hospitality, and a lot of interns would love to come to work for us, but we don't tend to have the housing for it. It gets very expensive here in the summer. We have some housing here, not enough. The Grand has some housing for sure. It's a very short-term workforce. Certainly from hospitality, though, I would say our number one customer is our employee. We can always do a better job, but without them, we don't have much of anything. You've seen all the pyramids flipped upside down. My employees are all talking to all my consumers, all my customers. We get 150,000 people through here each year, and they're the ones talking to them, so being able to train them has been, very difficult. It was interesting to hear Dennis, because in the 19 years that I've been in this area, I would say at 5% unemployment in Walworth County, that's 0 unemployment. Those people don't want to work. They don't. Because they can make $40,000 a year staying at home. That's what I've learned through all my employees. From everything that they do, they can utilize the system, and that's a number that's kind of a breaking point for somebody who's looking for a full-time job. There's so much available in our county. I don't say that as a positive or a negative. That just seems to be the threshold. We tend to look outside of this area probably for most of our year-round full-time employees. All our professionals are very active and on the boards of different associations. My background is I'm a PGA golf professional. I don't play much anymore, but we're on the board of the PGA. We do a lot of recruiting through them. We teach a lot of seminars. We're active in the Club Managers Association, teaching up at Stout, recruiting from Stout, going down to Texas, and going to some of these consortiums where all these hospitality schools come together, and employees want to be me and they want to be our directors, so they'll come work for us for that education as long as we can train them and continue to educate them. Golf Course Superintendents Association, I believe our Director of Grounds is the Vice President of the association this year, will be the President next year. So that's how we do a lot of our senior recruiting. And we do our absolute best to be able to train that staff once they're here for what probably is about 65 days. Because then when you go back to school, even if they come in for 90, they're not going to stay the whole time. So you need to find a lot of ways in hospitality in this area to be able to keep and maintain the staff. Some years you get very lucky. The Wisconsin Dells population of employees come down here if you can provide them housing. But it's fairly difficult. My HR director's here. Locally, she does all the right things. Badger High School's been a great partner for us with culinary. This year, I believe, we're their home golf course for the golf team. And we get those young men to also work for us. So all those relationships we work on very well. So from a hospitality aspect, we could use some help probably with the culinary training in this area. It's fairly difficult to provide. Most of our consumers are coming from Chicago. That experience with an unexperienced team that quick. And so we just try to take every opportunity we can to educate and get a lot of people to come back. I know we're doing a pretty good job, because as we get some of the young people here, they want to come back year after year after year. So we probably get a good 3.5 years from most of the seasonal staff members that come here. Cindy and Danielle, they do a great job of keeping the employees motivated with a lot of activities. In case you ever want to read a book, listening to Dennis, I'm reading a book called The IY Generation. It's pretty amazing how many people are 25 years or younger right now, What does that look like? Obviously, the I is for iPhone, iPad, everything. How they think a full-time job is 20 hours, and that's it. And if you pull them away from technology, their anxiety factor goes so high, they're so disconnected, they have anxiety attacks. So if you get a chance to read this book, it's that next phase of employee and what's important to them, what it looks like, and what kind of jobs they want. It's interesting, it's fun. I've talked over 5 minutes. I could do, Rich, I was going to do healthcare. I could do that real quick. If I get sick, I can see Dave.
Kevin, if you let me do hospitality. In many respects, my industry, I'm a Rich Gruber, Mercy Health System. I'm a vice president, and good to see so many familiar faces in the audience. In many respects, healthcare is a lot like the hospitality industry. It's constantly challenged with the need to continue to keep a pipeline open to fill critical jobs within our system. If you were to take a look at our HR job description packages, you'd find that we've got about 1,500 different individual occupations that we're hiring for. And in an organization that is currently at 7,500 employees in our two systems, that's a lot of diversity within the workplace. We need everybody from healthcare professionals to healthcare paraprofessionals to electricians to plumbers to food service workers to culinary arts. You name it, we need it, and we're constantly in that process of trying to build those community connections, those other business connections necessary so that we can collectively do things a little bit differently as we approach the challenges of the workforce shortage that we see in so many of those different occupations that we hire. You hear a lot about the nursing shortage. You hear a lot about the impending shortage of primary care physicians. That's very real, and that's something that we recognized a long time ago were areas that we would have to delve into and find our own solutions because nobody else was going to provide solutions to us. That's one of the reasons, as a very innovative healthcare system, we created our own family medicine residency program, a 3-year specialty program that allows us to graduate family medicine specialists. We get to pick from the best and the brightest and move the rest on, and that's given us a good pipeline to ensure that we have the primary care physicians that we need. Early on, though, we also discovered that if we didn't work collectively with other health systems, with educational institutions, we wouldn't have a pipeline for other critical occupations, such as nurses. One of the innovative things that we've done is working collectively with school districts and Black Hawk Technical College. We've created the Health Occupations Academy. This is a program that allows us to take juniors and seniors in high school, put them through the rigors of getting their certified nursing assistant certification, making sure that they have all the clinical hours that they need to accomplish that. And then we push them along to go into other health occupations because the CNA degree is kind of the starting point for just about every health occupation that you can think of. That's been an incredibly successful program, and we worked that program very hard, and I can tell you from the statistics that were available as fresh as January of this year, from that health occupations program, the CNA program, we've graduated over 900 CNAs. Of those 900 CNAs, there's at least a dozen that currently are in medical school or studying to be advanced practice nurse practitioners or physician's assistants. And that led us to a real sound conclusion that the earlier you can get to youngsters and help them with their career choices, the more likely you are to have them make successful decisions in terms of what career path do they want to achieve and how are they going to get there. As a business community participant, we have a fantastic career work exploration system that we've implemented within the Rock County schools, and we're hoping to bring it over to the Walworth County schools. The current program is called Imagine Rock County. If you look at the studies that are out there, young people start making that career choice of what do I really want to do when I grow up, typically when they're about 6th or 7th grade. So the sooner that you can give them a tool where they can start exploring potential occupations to choose from and have the opportunity to visit with persons that are doing that occupation today or with businesses that are in need of those occupations, the more likelihood you're going to have of that young person making a career choice successfully and not end up studying pottery in Europe and wondering why their student loans are not getting paid off. That particular program has been immensely successful, and we've introduced it at the junior high level in just about every school district in Rock County, and we're bringing it online, hopefully to Walworth County in the relatively near future. Capturing inquisitive minds when they're young, you have to be creative. It's good to hear that Elkhorn schools will be participating in the Mercy Medical School for Teens. That's been a program that has been very, very successful for us. It's probably the only opportunity that a high school student is going to have where they can dissect the heart of a pig and decide, you know, the sight of blood is not that bad. Maybe I want to be a doctor or a surgeon. So, other programs that we use and we do with some regularity, we have a Boy Scouts of America Medical Explorer post that creates an opportunity for young people to get a look at all facets of what the healthcare industry is about, and frankly, it's also generated a lot of young people who have gone on to get a technical education or a higher education, and frankly become Mercy partners, and we're proud to have them as employees within our system. We do a lot of internships, we do a lot of apprenticeships, we do a lot of job shadowing. We offer a boatload of scholarships and forgivable loans. We provide clinical experiences for every health occupation imaginable, from a phlebotomist to a rad tech to a mammograpist. And we do that in partnership with the technical colleges, whether it be Gateway here in Walworth County, or Blackhawk Tech, McHenry County College in Illinois, and soon to be with Rockford College in Illinois. What we've discovered is, in order to be successful with a challenging workforce, is you got to be creative, and you really have to think outside the box. And more important than thinking outside the box is find some partners who are willing to get outside the box with you. The cooperative ventures that we have with the technical colleges in particular, but with also other healthcare systems, have allowed us to do some creative things, and allows us to continue to design new programs to do that outreach necessary to ensure that that pipeline is going to be full across the board for us for a long, long time. So thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Kopolowski. I'm the principal at Badger High School in Lake Geneva. A lot of the comments that have been made, I'll be echoing just a little bit. We do, starting already in the middle schools, talk about career clusters and those kinds of things. We do want students to have a plan as they graduate and move through school. We work very diligently at that. And we do enjoy the business partnerships that we have. And if there's one thing I could encourage, it's that if you aren't involved with a business partnership with a school, please get involved somehow. Our students do love that. Tristan's going to tell us a little bit about the experience he's had. But the more opportunities our students have to do that, the better it is, I think, for everybody. I think one of the things all of us have to do, and perhaps the most important thing I'm hearing, is you know, the students having that opportunity and realizing the jobs that are out there. I think we're missing the boat a little bit in that we have to convince the parents of our students that not everyone is a four-year university student, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's the answer to success. You know, getting that degree in psychology and then not being able to do anything with a degree in psychology doesn't help anyone a whole lot. And I think part of the problem is we've sold as a school system, and I think pretty much society has said, listen, you've got to be a four-year, you got to graduate from a four-year university. It's the only way it's going to work for you. And I think we need to get out of that mindset a little bit and convince people along the way that, listen, there are great opportunities available for us. Our culinary arts program, perhaps the best in the state. If not, it's very close. And there are jobs sitting there waiting for them, and four-year scholarships waiting for those students because they participated in the program. They can walk out, go to culinary arts school for 2 years, and have a high-paying job immediately. And yet I don't think that the community at large recognizes those opportunities and the different things that are there. We do a bunch of stuff. You've heard what Elkhorn does. It's very similar, I think, most of the schools in our area. The youth apprenticeships, the opportunities that are there for students, culinary arts programs, CNA programs in the high school, Gateway coming to teach classes at the high school. There are a lot of things going on that we want our students to take advantage of, and that students are taking advantage of. we'll have students who will graduate from Badger High School with credits not only from technical schools, but also from four-year universities if they'd like it. A student 3 years ago went to University of Chicago with 31 credits. Walked in as a sophomore. So just the money that's saved there, but also the opportunities that that student had along the way. And I think the biggest challenge for high schools is to keep pushing students. Students like Tristan push themselves. It's the other students that we have to keep getting across to, and then we have to keep working hard at making sure that there's some kind of career path ready for them after high school. Last thing I wanted to mention, I think, is that the partnerships, again, are such an integral part of what we're doing, and especially at the local level, different communities have different opportunities, because if the businesses are closer to you, obviously if the technical training is closer to you, it provides better opportunities for that. So in my opinion, the other thing we need to figure out is how to get students from one place to another to make the training available for them. Lake Geneva does not have a ton of businesses right in Lake Geneva itself, and schools need to adjust, and we need to adjust programs where we can get them out and maybe outside of our community and into different places a little easier, but also the transportation becomes an issue for a lot of those students, especially a lot of our students who are going to jump right from high school into the job market. Transportation becomes a huge issue because their families are probably working all the time as well. And so any ideas with that, we would welcome them. I think it's a discussion that needs to be had because I just view that as being a huge challenge to us as well.
All right, now it's my turn. I would first like to thank you all for letting me share my experiences with and share my perspective on the different career pathways that are available. I have taken advantage of many opportunities that are available at Badger High School. I'm a senior, and I think if my AP tests and my Project Lead the Way tests go as planned, I should walk out of high school with over 20 credits. And at this moment, I have 12 because I took macro and microeconomics, and then civil engineering and architecture and an intro to engineering design and development. As a freshman, I started off not really knowing what I wanted to do for my career. I knew it was something in the math and science field because unlike most kids, I love math and science. So I was like, hey, why don't I try intro to engineering, see if it's right for me, see what it has in store. And I took the class and I loved it because I got to apply the math and science that I was learning in my other classes and use it to solve problems. And so I continued to take classes to help narrow down my choices because in engineering, there are a multitude of disciplines to choose from. And I was like, I like math and science, but there's not one just for math and science. They all have math and science in them. So I took civil engineering and architecture my sophomore year, and I realized that that wasn't exactly what was interesting me. So I then took physics and AP physics, and I liked the electrical aspect. So now I have applied to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I've been accepted into the College of Engineering and the Department of Electrical Engineering. And I intend to pursue a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and use that to enter into the renewable resources field. I have taken almost every Project Lead the Way class that Badger has to offer. And with these classes, it has given me the opportunity to earn college credit while learning more about the engineering field. And then also, because they are math and science based, I was able to apply what I was learning in classes such as AP Physics and use it to solve problems. For example, in AP Physics, right now we're learning about capacitors, and then I go in 8th hour, I have digital electronics, and I get design circuits with these capacitors that I had just learned the math and science behind, and now I get to actually make something with them. And then because of the connections through Badger High School, I was able to earn an internship for Precision Plus, which is where Barry is from. And with that internship, it has supported my belief that engineering would be the proper field for me to enter into. At that internship, I rotated each week at which section of the manufacturing process that I would help with. And my favorite of those weeks was when I got to go in the classroom and got to design parts and design the programs for the machines to make the parts. Obviously, I wasn't making new parts. I was just redoing other things so that I could see how it worked. And so that internship was very valuable. And I intend to do the internship again this summer and hope to continue to expand my knowledge of the engineering field. Okay, now I think it's a question.
Thank you, everybody, for your input here. And I would like to open it up for questions and comments. And I know there are a lot of what I would call either primer-type programs that a couple of people reference here, Project Lead the Way, or their makerspace, Fab Lab type things that are, I think, when I say primer, kind of a good way to get kids engaged in especially the math and sciences, but being problem solvers and innovative in that. And I know when I kind of get around and learn about different models around the county and that, I know I hear Beloit Memorial High School a lot, and we're fortunate to have Steve McNeil here too, and maybe he might comment a little bit on that. But I'd like to open that up, and Kathy has a microphone too, so if you have any questions or somebody that wants to comment on some innovative things, we'd love to do that at this
Your
point.
degrees as well as Gateway, and enabling our teachers to offer your curriculum for transcripted credit. We have hundreds of students that take advantage of that, and already this year we have 35 students who've started the enrollment process to Gateway, which at one time kind of used to be, if I can't get anywhere else, I'm going there. And so to have that many students that have already made that selection kind of reinforces the importance of having those people in our schools. So thank you for that.
Hi, I'm Nikki Payne. I'm from SORPAC, which is Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. And for those who don't know, our urban planners, our engineers are the ones that actually do transportation, land use, and the environment as far as the plans that we submit to the federal government. As I am hearing about the career panel, I would love to be able to talk to you a little bit more about that. And you also brought up transportation. We're looking at interns and want to make sure that we have interns from all 7 counties to participate. So I'm shooting that out to you, and I'm also hearing a little bit more about the engineering program, the intro class that you said for engineering. So would love for either one of you to tell me a little bit more about what you're doing.
Come in and present. We are trying to get our students to open up their eyes to all kinds of careers. So many times they limit themselves to nursing, they'll limit themselves to, let's just say, I don't know, teaching, the normal, the basic, but we're trying to get them to open up to different careers. And in fact, in the fall, we actually went out to Delevingne's water treatment plant because there is a new YA apprenticeship available now in water treatment. So I would be more than happy to come and make a connection with you as we're constantly looking for new ideas, things more cutting edge, so that I always say to my students, let's do some research for careers that don't exist today, but perhaps 3-4 years down the road when you're out there, when you finish your education, that, here, these careers now are available. So I'd love to sit down and chat with you about that. Thank you.
Bob, you talked about the fact that not every student is meant to go to a 4-year program, but if I remember correctly, when we see the district ratings in all the different school districts, it shows right there what percent are going on to college. I mean, how do we change that mindset? Because that seems like it's a performance indicator of your school or our Elkhorn or Delaware.
I'll go back to the statistics that was shown earlier that 60 to 70% of your students start the 4-year program, but how many actually finish it? And there's actually data that's readily available now. On that statistic, you literally can track a student through 5 years. It's a really easy thing to do. And the 25% is pretty darn accurate in 5 years about how many of your kids are going to get a degree. Changing that mindset, I'm open to any ideas anybody has, because again, as a society, we've said, and part of the thing, if you notice the graph on the economic downturns, of course, the people who don't have a 4-year degree are impacted a little more, and it kind of goes down. And so I think people see or hear that and think that therefore their students have to do the four-year university route. I think Gateway's done an amazing job, and I guess the technical schools all over Wisconsin have done a great job of offering programs to our students, of letting and enabling credits to transfer from high school to technical school and now to 4-year universities. And I think we just have to keep pushing that and pushing that idea. From a cost standpoint as well, it's so much cheaper for a student to go to a 2-year UW system school and then feed into a 4-year school, or do the technical school route. There are just so many options there. And again, I think we're back to that old mindset where their parents either didn't have those opportunities or really don't know about them. And we've tried almost everything imaginable. And I just think there just has to continue to be more pushing and more pushing. And then the other piece is, I think they also need to see that those jobs, when they go into a business, that you guys you don't stop educating our students when they walk into your businesses. In fact, you're doing as much, sometimes probably more education than we're doing for them as far as their career planning goes. And so that mindset, I think, needs to be out there too. One of the things I talk to freshmen on our first day is I want you to have opportunities, I want you to have choices, but I also want you to understand that your schooling will not end after high school. I can almost guarantee that now. Because when you go on the job, there's going to be different things they want you to learn. There are going to be certifications they want you to get. And I think continuing to reinforce that message is important as well.
Can I chime in too, if I might? One of the things that we have done as a business community, and I think it's something that's I'm going to toss out as a challenge to the high school faculty and staff that are here in particular, we've started a formal program whereby we're taking career counselors, we're taking classroom teachers, and we're taking them out into the field, and for the first time in many of their lives, they have an opportunity to see firsthand what a manufacturing environment is like. They have an opportunity to see what prominent companies within your community actually do. And the eye-opening experience for them is they then go back into the classroom and they become cheerleaders for the fact that manufacturing is not dirty, it's not dusty, it's not smelly. It's a totally different environment than your great-grandfather's manufacturing environment. If we can turn teachers into cheerleaders, we can break that vicious cycle of young people not really appreciating the fact that I can get a certification as a stainless steel welder. And you know what? I can go to work for a great firm and I can make real money, and I don't have to spend 4 years or 6 years in a college environment to do that. I can go to Blackhawk Tech or to Gateway Tech and I can get my 2-year nursing degree and I can make $65,000 a year. And there's jobs readily waiting for me. I don't have to go study psychology at UW-Madison or at UW-Whitewater. There's great opportunities in the technical college environment. If the teachers and the career counselors would take the time to get out and see the environment, to see what the jobs actually are, I guarantee you'll be better cheerleaders than what you see in the basketball.
Director of Open Arms Free Clinic. We're the only free medical clinic for the uninsured in Walworth County. And it's a pleasure to be here because in developing the pipeline of healthcare professionals, I often get the call, I want to go to medical school, could I volunteer? Well, that'd be great, and yes, you can, but what I'd really like to do is develop preceptor opportunities and have placement of other folks who want to learn about an interdisciplinary healthcare team. It's not just the doctors, the PAs, the nurses, it's the lab technicians, it's the pharmacy technicians, it's the medical receptionist, it's the scheduler, it's the interpreter, it's every single person that works in the health of a person. And so just developing preceptor opportunities where we had a volunteer from a mental health provider who would be willing to have interns and be the field supervisor. I don't always have the supervisors for all these different areas because I have volunteers who are there once a month. But if I had a pipeline of one supervisor who can have these field placements, we could develop a capacity for behavioral health, medical, dental, and the lab technicians and pharmacy. So I'm looking forward to developing those preceptor opportunities and having our students come through so they have a great opportunity to see what a vulnerable population looks like and what healthcare looks like for the poor and the uninsured and the sick. Because we actually help them get back on their feet and get jobs in the market once we get them well. So anyways, thank you for having the opportunity to be here.
School metric and how many kids go off to college. First, I do want to chime in also on the tours. We offer tours constantly. Our building is open constantly for students and teachers. And we're going to have the career coaches coming to our building, all of the Walworth County career coaches coming to our building, and I think it's next week. So I think we should all open up our doors so that these young people and teachers in particular can get a view of what's going on inside your walls. The metric about how many kids are going off to college is kind of an irritating thing at times, because obviously when schools were held to the metric on the school report card, how many kids are going off for your university, they're going to try to meet that goal, right? They want to look good on the report card. Mike Reeder and I had a meeting last week, or actually 2 weeks ago, with Senator Paul Farrow, who is in charge of the Education Reform. He's the chair of the Education Reform Committee. And we spoke about this, and he too feels that that needs to be changed. So they're going to look at that report card at the state legislature level to try to make some inroads to say we need to have kids college and career ready. And that this is a hot button. I think Joanne has a comment as well.
Well, no, I just wanted to add that as far as getting the teachers out into the field, we have done that in the past. We've had teacher externships over the summer where our teachers went out and worked in hospitality, they worked in manufacturing, they worked in the medical field, and that is so important. These teachers come back to the classroom invigorated and ready and willing to share their experiences with students in the classroom. So if we would have employers that would be interested in doing that again, I'd love to set up groups of teachers coming through your plants, so I'd like to make connections with you. I had something else to say, but it escapes me right now, so I'll grab the mic later again.
Brian, did you have our club is for middle school kids in Walworth County, and we're at Phoenix Middle School. And we have a program that we teach the children once every 2 weeks or so called Career Days. And all of our students have Chromebooks, so we have them utilize their books. They pick a career that they may be interested in, and kids of this age have very vivid imaginations, and so they choose anything that they can think of, and they have a worksheet, and they figure out what it is they're going to need, what kind of education they're going to need for this career, what kind of money they're going to need to get the education they need to go further, if they're going to need a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, a master's degree. And then we'll bring people in to talk to them about that career and get them forward thinking before they get into high school. And so when they get into that next level, they already have a plan in place of what they're interested in, so the classes they pick as they go into high school are already going towards the career they're interested in.
I work at Thielen Total Construction in Elkhorn. We're a custom home builder. We've been in business for over 40 years. And up until this year, I haven't had too much difficulty in terms of finding new employees. And we do a lot of on-site training. Now, just within the last 2 weeks, I've had ads in the Community Shopper, Facebook postings, Craigslist. I reached out to some of the high schools, and I'm getting very, very few responses. And I think there also needs to be, as well as the medical field and hospitality and manufacturing, you also have to bring in construction and the other related trades there too, because those are great career opportunities for young people too that maybe they're not aware of. Now, when I looked at Gateway's curriculum, there's nothing for construction education, Blackhawk, nothing. I don't know what the high schools are doing at this point. They used to always have something with industrial education, but I don't really know if that's really part of the curriculum anymore. But we are going to be in desperate need of young people who are interested in this type of career too as well.
and then my hat's off to Tristan, is that good name? You figured it out, and you're doing a great job, and I think you're following making all the right steps to be very successful, so congratulations to you, that's great. A couple of key things that maybe we haven't thought about yet. The idea about benchmarks and students enrolling in 4-year versus 2-year, a lot of that's actually gone away. I would encourage your students to dual enroll. At Gateway, you can become a University of Wisconsin Parkside student and a Gateway student on the exact same day. And all those courses that you're taking for Gen Eds, you can get them for 1/3 the cost. Transfer them to any technical college or any 4-year school in the state. So there are options out there that we haven't thought creatively enough about. So dual enrollment is one option that makes sure that all your students are getting the credit that they need for all the benchmarks of your schools. The second thing is change the conversation a little bit with parents. What I tell parents is that we all recognize that a 4-year degree is really probably 6 years, right? What if you take those additional 2 years and upfront those with an associate degree, and then it's likely that your son or daughter will have skills to get a job, and in fact their employer will probably help pay for the rest of their 4-year degree, so that 6 years really becomes 4 years with 2 degrees in it. So you can really compact the conversation a lot different than maybe what we've always been thinking, that when you graduate from high school, then it's directly onto the university. Not necessarily. The university is out there for you at any stage in your life. Right? So let's make sure that the pathway is clear on how you're going to be successful once you get to the university. Right? That's the goal, not to just go and then not be successful. So how can we build all of those opportunities for support, resource, financially, whatever it might be, so that ultimately your career path takes you on a journey for the rest of your life, not age 25 and I'm done. So those are just a couple of thoughts.
Encouraged by the participation. My name's Steve McNeil. I'm Vice President of Educational Services with Corporate Contractors in Beloit. As about 6 weeks ago, I was Superintendent of Schools in Beloit School District. And so Corporate Contractors decided to open up an education division and asked me to run it. And part of it is to work with career tech ed programs. Beloit, some 4, 5, 6 years ago, Diane Hendricks, owner of ABC Supply and Hendricks Holding, had asked me and a number of people in the community to fly out to Lehigh Technical School in Pennsylvania and look at their model. And their model is simply this: it's an all-in-one campus that has county schools from all over the county schools drive in the morning, drop off their kids, head off to culinary, head off to machining, head off to IT, wherever it might be, and then they go back to their home school in the afternoon for the core classes, and then kids would flip and vice versa. After seeing that model and coming back to Beloit, we had a consortium in Rock County at the time that was called wceda, an acronym that escapes everybody. But the bottom line of it was we're centers of excellence at each of the school districts. One would have auto, one would have engineering. It never worked because kids don't travel that well. So after marinating on that for a number of months, I went to our school board and I said, this is going to be an expensive conversation, but we need to be that all in one campus. The Lehigh model is simply this, and this is what we emulated in Beloit, that you have advisory committees. And so I'm going to do the Reader's Digest and cut right to it. Out of that, we went forward and we have developed over 60 business partnerships. And in those 60 business partnerships, which Barry is a part of with Precision Plus, in our machining area, along with Mike Reeder and others, that advisory committee drives everything we do in that particular area. And we have culinary, you know. Badger High School, I think, and Beloit are two of the better culinary schools, certainly in Wisconsin. But beyond that, we have everything you can think of. And what we did is we had a stop doing list. We quit doing things that didn't affect kids going to a career. And so when we talked, the question that went to Bob about career readiness or college readiness, we got rid of the college part of it. We just call it career readiness. Instead of it being college and career readiness, we're just saying a career pathway. And college is one path to a career. It's not the only path. And so we just look at things differently. Our machine shop was completely revised, redone. I brought an advisory committee in of a bunch of machine shop owners. They came in, they were our advisory committee. They decided what the machine shop should look like, what machine should be in there. I had a former student of mine from Hendricks Corporation, Hendricks Foundation. They donated money to have a career advocate full-time in our school to help working with kids on the pathways that Bob talked about. so that we, as early as we can, start talking to kids about careers and how do we take and get them, instead of see Dick run, we say see Dick weld, okay? And we start looking at it differently, so thank you.
Analyst, and like I said, I really hope to use this above and beyond the meeting here today to try to help educate some of the parents and other educators that can be hopefully cheerleaders or help people kind of think along some of the lines of what we discussed here. Just finally, I would just say, as far as wceda, we're membership based, and if you are not a member, hopefully you'd consider becoming a member to help do events like this and some of the other good work, and you could certainly go to our website. But thank you again to everybody. Really appreciate it, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, well, after today's session, I think a lot of good points came out. One that, I put forward that it's a quantity issue as well as a quality issue. But the other thing I think we saw out from a lot of the panelists is that we have to find all the pathways available to all the people that we can maximize up their talents and their interests. So as you go forward with this, if you got a quantity problem, you've got to compete all the way around, but we have to give everybody that's coming up, I said we have to find every body we can and get it trained up to its max, but we also have to have the vehicles and the avenues and the pathways that they can take forward so they can explore what they have to do, and then everybody gets interested in the workforce and what the employers need and what the labor force can supply.